Jim, when we look at JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, we see like a strong side guy, a weak side guy. Like, how well do they complement each other?
They're both, they're the consummate defensive linemen in terms of being active, athletic, but also big and strong. I don't know if you need to look at them as necessarily complementing each other because I really think both of them can do anything. You know what I mean? I think they're very similar, and you should expect to see them in a lot of different places and sometimes doing similar jobs.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, 97.1.
Jim, you talked a couple weeks ago about the cornerback numbers and the depth and the injuries. How do you feel differently now than you did a couple weeks ago about what you've got to work with there?
I do because today we were out there and we almost had our full complement. So it's good to see those guys there and the ones who played when they were out. Gained a lot of experience against excellent competition. But I think we have our, top guys back now, and it does give you a lot of confidence when they're out there because they can change the game in terms of coverage.
You probably didn't expect to see maybe so much of J.K. or Jair in camp. That seems like it could be a benefit in the long run for you.
Yeah, I think anytime, these things happen in football. You got to be next man up, and it all pays off down the road because of the experience that they get, that they may not have gotten those reps, and we'll need them throughout the course of the season.
Front row middle, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
How much of your defense has been installed, and how comfortable are you with the rate of progress there?
We're up to about 75%, and I'm very comfortable with where we're at. Because we're gonna have to pare it down now. We're gonna have to get specific to our opponent as we go. So I think we've come a long way in terms of installation, like I said in the spring and again in fall camp, farther than I would have expected. And the players are very open to learning and they want to be great. So that part of it has been exciting, and we've been able to get a lot in. But we're going to have to start to pare it back and get specific to our opponent.
You've never wanted to get to 100. You always wanted to get to.
Yeah, I mean, I never expected to get to 100. We'll keep some things in reserve, and pull them out as needed as we go through the season. But I don't like to spring things on the players that are brand new, as you're preparing for an opponent. My philosophy is get as much in as you can and then use that, have enough so that you have answers. I think we've always been good in the second half. That's not because we're creating new things. It's because we're pulling from a tool chest that already has answers in it, and they're aware of it, and they know how it works.
With 2 weeks left, less than 2 weeks, what's your biggest concern about the defense?
I don't have that many concerns. Now that the corners are coming back, I feel confident in what we have. Just seeing it in an actual game live situation, that's every year for a football coach. The first time you put them out there, you want them just to play as well as they can. And I have no concerns with them.
We'll go Nathan Baird, second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com, and right after that, Rob Oler, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, I asked you specifically about J.K. Johnson with the last time I talked to you, and at that time you were like, too early to tell, but you obviously saw a lot more after that. What were your impressions?
J.K. has really stepped up. I mean, he's increased his competitive level. He's increased his knowledge of the defense. He's just put himself in position where we feel comfortable putting him in the game. He's grown up pretty quickly.
Are you optimistic that Jordan will be available for the first game? And I guess just where do you see, because he's been limited a little bit in camp, where his development is right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Above my pay grade, not my bailiwick. We'll see.
Rob Oler, Clemson Dispatch.
Jim, you just talked about this, the crucible moment of going from practice, everything's come together, you're comfortable, you're confident, to the bright lights, to the game. You've done this a while. Can there be a big difference? Have you know what I mean, that step up, how big a step up is that?
It depends on the experience you have, you know. Fortunately, we have guys who have played a lot in games. I think that matters. That's important. And, you know, certainly if you have someone who's never played in that kind of arena with all that on the line, it can be of concern. But I think we have enough experience. And plus the offense that we go against every day certainly tests us, you know, and we try to treat practice like a game, and I'm on them all the time during practice, even though we're maybe in some mismatched situations. I want to explain everything to them, why it happened, if you know, when it did happen. So we try to make it as accountable as we can during practice. But I think we have enough experience that our guys are excited to go out and play, and they're ready for it.
Do you sleep well?
No.
Entering in that first game?
No. But I never sleep well, so the first game or not, it doesn't matter.
Front row middle, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Jim. Larry Johnson says he loves to rotate up front on the D line. We've seen that here at Ohio State since he's been here. Correct me if I'm wrong. You do not like rotating too much in the back seven. You like having a main backup, but play the starters. How does that mesh with your overall philosophy with Larry wanting to rotate a lot up front, but you not wanting to rotate much in the back seven?
It's fine. I mean, you know, the system is set up that those units can operate independently, you know, and certainly your frontline troops, so to speak. I mean, they are taking the brunt of the attack all the time. So it's good when you have a lot of depth there. But yes, we want our front to be fresh. We want to play a lot of guys. In the back end, I think you need to get into more of a flow with the game and the adjustments and how they're running their routes and their motions and shifts and all those things. So I feel like it's more important that those guys are in there and they see everything. But we rotate freely up front. That's great.
Just one more for me. When do you expect the defense will be fully installed? It doesn't sound like it'll be during the season, as you mentioned. So we're talking like during spring? Like, when do you expect it'll be fully installed?
Yeah, you know, it's just, like I said, as we go through the season, you know, we still have that. We have our tools, and they know them, and then we have, you know, that things that I haven't quite sprung on them yet. But I think that by the end of the season, it'll crank up even more. But I got to be judicious with that. Like, you know, when you throw something new at them the week of an opponent, I don't like that. I mean, we used to do that all the time back in the old days, you know, because I felt like you had time and offenses weren't that complicated, you know, so you could come in with say, hey, this is what we're doing this week. You know, you guys it's something brand new. Don't do that anymore. You know, I like them to know everything that's going on and not spring too much on them, but we'll crank it up a few percentage points by the year's over just because we'll need some things. But we never really want to get to 100, right? We always want to leave a few things that nobody knows that we have, including the coaches or anybody. Just a few things like way back here I want to keep to myself.
Second row left, right behind him, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Because you talked a little bit about Lathan last time we talked to you. Like, what have you liked about him as a safety, especially in that man?
Who's that?
Lathan Ransom.
Lathan. He's decisive. He, you know, he pulls it. I call it pulling your trigger. I mean, he just goes. I mean, he's a football player. I guess, you know, he sees the forest through the trees. I mean, he can diagnose the play extremely fast, and then he's aggressive with how he treats it. So you can't ask for more than a safety than that. And he's had an exceptional camp. In fact, I think I just put him up today. It was might be the only two-time camp Silver Bullet Defender of the Day winner. He just stands out on the field, in how he operates, and he plays at a fast tempo, and he's usually never wrong. Everyone makes mistakes, but he's usually never wrong. In any case, he's aggressive.
At all shocked or impressed at how quickly he's been able to get back on the field, given that New Year's Day?
Yeah, I mean that's I had no idea whether we would have him or not, or really what he can do. So I'm very impressed. I think he's going to have a great season.
Right behind him, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, Jim, you've said you don't really want to rotate a lot in the back seven. Do you feel pretty comfortable about, who those guys are right now that are going to be playing in the back seven?
I do. I mean, there are still some competitive situations, but I feel good about the group. And like I said, we'll play some guys, just nowhere near what they will, what Coach will on the defensive line. We'll play some, corner. You'd like to have an extra corner, an extra safety, an extra nickel, an extra linebacker. I think you can bring those guys along, bring them in certain situations with certain calls. So we'll have some guys, but I feel good about where we're at.
Ryan Day was saying that you've tailored your scheme to the talent that you have here. Are there things that have surprised you in your first offseason here, where maybe you came in thinking you were going to do a certain thing and realized because of the players you had here that you should do something differently?
Well, I think, like I've said from the beginning, what has surprised me the most was how quickly they pick things up. I mean, I think that's a change. They want to be great. They want to, I know that some of them went through some tough times last year. They want to avenge that. They want to step up. They want to learn. I think that they all have visions of getting to the next level, and they want to learn. They want to pick your brain, and I think they've soaked it up. So that's been surprising to me how quickly they got that.
Deep left, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated.
Coach, this is such a broad question, but can you give us a sense about the pride that this group takes in trying to be a silver bullet defense? Because the last couple of years haven't lived up to that, to that moniker.
Yes, we talk about it all the time. It's the first thing that comes up when we have our unit meetings, and we talk about that legacy. So it's mentioned every day. We don't talk about the past at all. I wasn't here. I wasn't a part of it. You don't know until, if you're not in that submarine, you don't really know. We don't talk about it at all. But we do talk to creating something special with the defense, reviving that silver bullet culture, having a defense that the fans can be proud of, and their parents and the rest of the team can look at as a strength. And we, really, there's no reason not to. Everything else at The Ohio State is top 5, and why shouldn't the defense be? And then we live it. You watch them on the field, and then when you go over their mistakes and things that happen, you can tell that that they take the pride there, because they're serious about it. They want to fix it. They want to answer why it happened. And I think that's all part of living up to that legacy.
I know you don't want to necessarily single out individual guys, but just the progress that you've made so far as a unit through camp. Are you further than you thought you'd be? Are you kind of where you thought you'd be? Are there certain areas you feel like you got to catch up on?
We are further than I thought we would be. I mean, absolutely. We have been able to create competitive situations against what arguably is the best offense and the best offensive coaches in the country, and we have been able to be competitive, and that's a big deal, because you can only get better in practice, and that depends on who you're going against, what tempo, the situations, what's your attitude, and it has been competitive the whole time, and now we have to replicate that on the field. But you feel better about it because you've seen it in practice. You can't not get it done in practice and say, well, game day we're going to step up. We're going to holler at each other and smack each other in the helmets, and that's going to make us play better. No, you have to do it on the grass. So I feel great about our competitiveness against what is a great offense on a daily basis.
Front row right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Jim, as far as Tommy Eichenberg, you mentioned the other week that you said you're somebody who rarely makes mistakes, and I guess he seems to have a pretty good understanding of your defense. And for somebody who plays in the middle with a lot of responsibilities, how, I guess, does his timeline and picking up things compare to the guys who have had in the middle there?
Yeah, he's ahead of anyone I've had in terms of the pace that he's picked it up, which is great because we need it. He's our guy there in the middle. His learning capacity, his ability to correct mistakes when he does make them, which is not often, be accountable, figure them out, and, not say much. Just take notes in his notebook, and he's a quiet guy, and just get better. But his pace of learning is fantastic, and we're confident with him as our leader.
What other traits do you like about him in the middle?
He's able to process, quickly. He's able to, read his keys because they change at times, and he's able to read the offensive formation and play and diagnose, see what's coming before it happens, and that's a big deal for a linebacker.
And just, you mentioned kind of the way he was kind of writing stuff down and picked up stuff. Is there a carryover effect with guys in the rest of the room and the team? What sort of effect did that have?
Yeah, because they see him. He's a serious dude, man. He just takes the game serious. He takes his learning experience serious. He wants to know things. He's not jacking around, and guys follow that. They see how he operates, as a professional, and they pick up on it.
Third row left, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Jim, your two backers last year played like 90% of the snaps. I think your safeties were like 85% of the snaps. You envision that being similar here, or do you think you might have a little more depth where maybe it's not as dramatic as it was in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we have a little more depth here. I think it's still going to be swing more to the top group, but we do have more depth here than I've had in the past, so there'll be more guys that play.
And it sounds like you have, 5, 6 safeties you feel pretty good about. When it comes to working all of those guys into a game, like a Lathan or a Court, is that a case where you feel good putting those guys in sort of no matter what, along with like Ronnie and Josh just rotating, or is it more opponent game plan specific when it comes to getting those guys on the field?
Yeah, it's both. You have to feel confident with them playing at any time, right? Because if you're a backup, you're one play away. So you got to be confident with them playing at any time. But then you have the other part of control, which this is a tough game to control from a defensive standpoint, right? We're playing defense, and by that nature, you're not in control. You try to take back control. I think we do that well with some of our aggressiveness. The TFLs, the sacks, that's our way of taking back control. But we do have control over substitution, and how you can get a guy in a certain situation so that he'll succeed.
Do you have a greater ability to utilize sub packages here than maybe you've had in the past?
Yeah, I think we have guys who can be combo guys, true combo guys, and by that, you have a combo guy who's a D-line linebacker combo guy, but the tougher one to find is the combo guy who's a DB linebacker type. You look at Court, and he's got a real shot in that role, So you could have him in the game, and he could be a linebacker, or at the same time he could be a safety. So it doesn't give away your hand as much,
Got just a couple more. Second row middle, Doug Lane Reese, Cleveland.com.
Jim, the progress has the Jack become the Leo yet at this point, or what's the progress of that position?
No, I think we've made a lot of progress, but we're not quite to that point yet. You know, there are still certain roles and defining factors that that may take a while. You know, it may take the whole year to find, okay, how are we able to have this guy on the field and have him do, you know, 3 different things. So it's a work in progress, and we'll see as we get into live action. You start to see, okay, this guy can handle this. Can he handle that? Can he handle that? Can he handle that? You know, when you get to the point where one guy can handle any call that I make, you know, that's when it really goes to that next level. You know, where you don't have to pair your package to, okay, when this guy's in there, I got these 5 calls. You know, when it's perfect, and that takes a while. You know, one guy's in there and you got every call you could possibly have.
You guys in the opener will face one of the best tight ends in the country, in Michael Mayer at Notre Dame. What's the kind of skill set? What kind of player defensively are you looking for to utilize in matchups like that against a pass catching tight end who's
you have to have someone who has size, so he just doesn't get bodied out, and you need to have someone who is able to play the run, because typically he's around the ball and going out at the same time. So you really need to have a bigger player, someone that can get his hands on him early, because you just don't want to let him run free. I mean, everybody needs to know where he is, and including the linebackers. You know, even if you're not covering him, you need to know where he is, so you can be a factor in defending him.
And the guys on this roster who would fit that description are big, maybe.
I mean, I think yeah. I feel like all our safeties can do it. You know, we have good. You know, Ronnie is a physical dude. Lathan is a physical dude. He may be a little taller than them, but they're gonna be willing to step up and, you know, use their hands, use their body, be aggressive in coverage, and that's the most important part.
And just on the offensive side of the ball, real quick, what has been your since you got here, your evaluation of C.J. Stroud, of just somebody, his understanding of the game, his processing of the game, what you see when you're trying to go against him in practice, what he's doing? What's your veteran view on your QB?
It's a superior. I mean, top of the line. I mean, I was around Eli Manning at Ole Miss. I think I've said that before, but, you know, whatever we did in practice, Eli knew, because every defense has a weakness. So the faster the quarterback can process it and find it, like in everything that we do is trying to hide that hole, you know, because you really need 13 guys to play defense if you're going to cover everything, right? So you're always trying to disguise it, you know, get the quarterback to hold the ball a little bit. And CJ's just been, he picks all that up. You know, he and I talk. He asks questions. He wants to learn. He's really the best I've been around in terms of the way he handles, because we're doing a lot more now than we did back in 2003 in terms of throwing things at him. And he's fantastic. I don't think he makes mistakes, and I'm glad he's on my side and I don't have to play him.
And final questions, front row right, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Are we going to get him next week too?
We haven't spoken about
Okay.
it yet, but we'll talk.
Okay. Well, I just want to know what to ask. Jim, what is your charge, your orders, whatever you want to call it, to your defensive front in your defense now, as you've grown accustomed to these players and stuff? What do you want from them generally, and specifically those guys between the tackles? I mean, the three and maybe the nose and stuff. What specifically do you want to see out of them?
Yeah, I want them to attack. I want them to be aggressive. yes, I want them to hold their gap and hunker down at times when it comes to that. But for the most part, I want them to be aggressive. You know, our philosophy is, you know, let those guys go, let them create problems for the offensive line in terms of how they move, you know, the stunts that they run or the straight ahead attack. The way that we do things with the package, the whole goal is to put the offensive linemen, the offense, you know, kind of on their heels. So when they step, they don't quite know what they're going to get. It's that brief second of indecision that allows our guys to attack and create a new line of scrimmage. And look, if they get out of their gap, linebackers have to cover for them. That's the way it works when you have aggressive guys. So I really want them to be fresh. I want them to attack. I want them to think about making plays. You know, I don't want them to just have to hunker down and hold. You know, there's going to be times that they know they have to do that, and they're willing to do that for the team because that's what happens sometimes where they have to do it. But we want to clear the double teams off them. We want to get them freed up. We want to create as many through our disguises and bluffs and movements. We want to create as many one-on-one matchups as we can get up front. The more one-on-one matchups we can get with those guys feeling free to be able to operate, we're going to win.
Toward that end, there have been a couple of guys that have jumped out at you over the last 2 weeks. I mean, that have surprised you, whatever you want to call it. I mean, a couple of young guys stepping up. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you know, I feel we are so deep and so talented up front that you can really name any of them. And I'm not trying to be political there, but I mean, we really have a lot of depth, a lot of talent, a lot of guys that are willing to go hard and play hard. So you're going to see a lot of guys play, and you're going to see a lot of guys make plays.
one last one. Is it an advantage to you that Notre Dame went against your defense, even though you weren't there? Is it an advantage in preparation standpoint of seeing how they tried to adjust or whatever to the defense that you put in? Anyway, you know, in absentia, you weren't there, but has that given you a little bit of a preparation advantage?
I don't know about advantage, but I know that it helps me to see how a team responds to the defense, you know, your defense, and, you know, or because when you play an opponent, you're usually trying to find people that they've played that look like you so you can have an idea. But, you know, we're able to gather some knowledge from that. So I don't know about advantage, but I know it's good for me to be able to see that for sure.
Coach, thank you very much.